Enkosi ngokuhlala nathi kanti ngoku singena kwihero yethu yokugqibela nazi eziphala phambili.
Yebo mbukeli njengamanje sehoreni lethu ke lokugcina kanti asibheke ihamba phambili leli hora.
Sergeant Moses Mabasa uzawuqhubeka nokunika ubungqina kwityala lokubulawa kukaSenzo Meyiwa kwinkundla ephakamileyo ePitoli namhlanje.
Sikhombisa ukudamba isimo eRivali enyakatho yeGoli lapho kuqubuke khona uthuthuva phakathi kwezakhamuzi nabamba ezimayini ngokungemthetho kuleya ndawo.
Wababiza bonke uNowa wabakhela inqanawe wathi mvula iyeza ngena nawe. Hi igama lami Bethusile wakwamcinga imvumi yegospel. Thank you for watching Ekhaya Jikelele. Ngena nawe.
Ngatsho kuwe Thole sihlabele mkamambukeli liza kuqhuba ityala lokubulala uSenzo Meyiwa kwinkundla ephakamileyo ePitoli namhlanje. Umabasa unqenile izolo kuba iifoto ezibonisa imfumba yemali kunye nezixhobo zodidi oluphezulu sifunyenwe kwisixhobo esathinjwa komnye wamadoda amahlanu atyholwa ngokubulala uSenzo Meyiwa ngonyaka ka-2014. uSergeant Mabasa linqina likarhulumente lesihlanu kunye nomhlalutyi wemfonomfono wesibini uquka ubungqina elandela uColonel Lambertus Steyn. uColonel Steyn ke unqenile ukuba umtyholwa wesihlanu uFisokuhle Ntuli uye wanxibelelana gqebe nowayisisinqandamathe sikaMeyiwa utyheli Khumalo ngaphambi kokuba kubulawe uMeyiwa. Epheko sophulwa ngemibuzo phezolo uSteyn uvumile ukuba inombolo yemfonomfono ibingabhaliswanga ngegama likaNtuli.
Kusenjalo ke mbukelisi ke saba nengxoxo nongodi wezomthetho umeli uSixulu weDonda Attorneys ukuchaza kabanzi malungana nokuhlalukayo ecaleni lokubulawa kukaSenzo Meyiwa. uXulu ubalula ukuthi njengoba leli icala selenganyelwe ijaji elisha uRatha Mokgoatleng indlela ke lisingethwe ngayo likhombisa ukuphuthuma ujobelelana nangokuthi ke kuyashaqisa nokho ukuthi kungenzeka ukuthi abasolwa bake baxhumana ngomakhalekhukhwini ngaphambi kokubulawa kaMeyiwa nanokuthi omunye abasolwa kuthiwa waxhumana noKheli Khumalo owabe yintombi kaMeyiwa.
Ngoba sikhuluma nje ufakazi sokhona manje osifakazi wesihlanu ngicabanga ukuthi uSergeant Mabasa kodwa okubalekile sisinoxolo ilokho ukuthi phambilini sikhumbule besingakaqedi ufakazi wamiswa ke uJudge Mawumela kodwa ufakazi sikutholayo manje buhlukile nobaqala ngoba obaqala ukukhumbula ukuthi uColonel Steyn ubengakabizwa uMabasa ubengakabizwa into ayenzile uadvocate Baloyi uvele wabiza ofakazi abanye ayengababizanga waseqaleni waqala ngabanye kodwa lokho kukhombisa ukuthi ke sekukhona isivinini esikhona nanokuthi ubufakazi ke ovelayo manje yilobo uvele babengabizwanga eqaleni ngoba babengakabizwa kodwa kulokho uvele waqala ngabo ingakho sesithola ubufakazi obunjengalobu ukuthi uma ubheka kodwa noma ungakabhekisisi kakhulu uhlukile futhi bukuthanda ukudida kakhulu lokho bese kulindelile.
Emva kobufakazi ke obethulwe uColonel Steyn lapho etshele khona inkantolo ukuthi kwaba khona ukuxhumana phakathi kaKheli Khumalo kanye nomsolwa wesihlanu uFisokuhle Ntuli ngaphambi kokuthi kubulawa uMeyiwa. Engabe ke lobu bufakazi bungase buholele inkantolo ekutheni mhlawumbe ithole isisombululo kuleli icala?
Uma ukubuka ngoba bengishilo ukuthi ubufakazi obusha besingabulindelanga kuyashaqisa khona ngoba bekukhona ukuthi nabo omangalelo abazali nanokuthi futhi ukuthi uKheli ngeke nje umzekelo uKheli Khumalo ngoAugust wakhuluma Makushiwo wakhuluma noSifiso Ntuli umangalela wesi5 waphinda wakhuluma noSifiso Ntuli futhi kusesele izinsuku eziyishumi nanye ukuthi uSenzo Meyiwa kula lokho kuyashaqisa kodwa manje esingakutholile okwamanje mhlawumbe uSergeant Mabasa ngoba naye ungodi kwezobuchwepheshe uzokucacisa asikuthola ukuthi yiphi inkulumo ababeyikhuluma yayithini ngoba kube siyakuthola ngabe sinakho ukuthola ukuthi mhlambe ukubulawa kwaSenzo kwahlelwa ibona abamangalela kakhulukazi umangalela wesihlanu noKelly Khumalo kube khona inkulumo ecacile manje kukhona ukuthi bakhuluma kodwa manje bathi ngoba asikhumbule phela ke embukeli ukuthi into ebalekile ukuthi ubufakazi okumele sikuthole ubufakazi obungabanakho ukugabaza yabo mangizokubeka nje ngesilungu bathi kumele kube ubufakazi beyond reasonable doubt okuchaza ukuthi kumele kube ubufakazi obunganakho ukugabaza ukuthi hayi lapha sinobufakazi bobuchwepheshe kwaxhumana uKelly Khumalo nomangalelo nayo inkulumo futhi eshiciliwe evelayo ukuthi kwathiwa hayi ungafika ngesikhathi sokuthi bese uyamdubula usezongidinga bulawo mhlawumbe umzekelo omunye kube ukuthi khona imali abavumelana ngayo manje lokho akucacile ingakho ngithi yebo kuyashaqisa khona kodwa ufakazi ke kumele kuqine kuvela ukuthi khona noma bekuplanile.
Ithomalele imeko yaseRiverlea kumazantsi eGauteng kulandela uqhankqalazo ngokombiwa kwemigodi ngokungekho semthethweni nokulwa kozamazama. Oku kulandela ukudutyulwa kubulawe ozamazama abahlanu ngempelaveki. Abahlali bendawo yoGobityholi zamimpilo bathi sele lixesha ukuqhubeka imilo kule ndawo. Komvulo umphathiswa wamapolisa uBhekicele uqinisekise abahlali ukuba bazayibeka esweni le ndawo.
In 24 hours, you have seen the difference here.
Iphathimandla emkhandlwini idolobha waseKapa zithi kudutshulwe kubhekiswe emaphoyiseni ngesikhathi osomatekisi bevala umgwaqo enkabeni yedolobha eKapa izolo. Iphathimandla zithi kuvalwe komgwaqo kuqale emva kokuthi ke eshaqe amatekisi ayi15 bengekho esimene sifanele ukuba semgwaqeni. Ngokusho kwazo ke iphathimandla zithi abashayeli bamatekisi emva kwalokho baye bahlanganyela ngaphandle kwesikhumulo samatekisi baqala ngokuthelekela ngenduku elinye lamaphoyisa. Abashayeli ababebhikisha babese bevimba abanyoza kwabo ukuba bangene phela esikhumulweni samatekisi ngenhloso yokuzwakalisa ulaka lwabo. Ngenhloso yokudambisa isimo amaphoyisa kamasipala azamile ke ukufutha isisi esikhasunye embezi kodwa ke kwanhla ngazimuka nomoya. Ungqongqoshe wezobudlelwane namazwe omhlaba uDokotela uNaledi Pandor usenxuse ukuthi kube noguquko emkhandlwini zokuphepha enhlanganweni yezizwe. uDokotela uPandor usingethe uzakwabo waseJapan Yoshimasa Hayashi ePitoli.
Our country, like Japan, is a country committed to peace. Peace on the continent and peace worldwide. And we would like to continue our efforts to seek peace with regard to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Our country remains non-aligned in this conflict as we regard all wars as wars that we should not take sides on. We are also working hard to persuade the Russian side to address the Black Sea grain deal and interacting with all the relevant parties to see whether we could find a solution to ensure an opening of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. In principle, we would also like to assert that South Africa, as President Ramaphosa has repeated several times, is firmly committed to the principles of UN Charter in seeking to ensure that no country infringes the territory of another country and that the full equal sovereignty of all nations is respected. We feel to some degree that the UN Security Council has failed us in terms of this particular set of principles. It is one of the reasons that continues to persuade us that we must advocate strongly for the reform of the UN Security Council to ensure that it is fit for purpose and that it is able to respond to serious challenges of this nature.
Kunyuke ngomyinge gxebe ka14% ukuthengiswa kwenqwelo mafutha ngaphansi kwemeko zoqoqosho ezimaqongo. Inkcukacha zakutshanje the National Association of Automobile Manufacturers zibonakalisa ukuba zingamalunga namawaka angama47 iinqwelo mafutha ezithe zathengiswa ngoJuni xa kuthelekiswa nezingamawaka angama41 ebezithengiswe ngelixesha linye ngonyaka ophelileyo. I-Automotive Business Council ithi intengiso enhle yenqwelo mafutho yinto encomekayo nanjengokuba eli lijongene nocimicimi. Singaphaya kwe-29,795 inqwelo mafutha ezongeziweyo. Oko kuthetha ukuba kubeke uchatha wenqwelo ezi-251 nokuthengiswa kwezigadla. Kwezamazwe ngamazwe, iFrance sele iqale ukuthutha amakhulukhulu abantu baseFrance nabaseYurophu, njengoko ingathi kukhuthaza imfazwe entshona yeAfrika. Umkhosi waseNiger ubukuqe umongameli okhethwe ngenkqubo yentando yesininzi, uMohamed Bazoum, norhulumente wakhe kwiveki ephelileyo. Umbutho wamazwe akwintshona yeAfrika, i-ECOWAS, arhoxise ngokubuyisela uBazoum ngetshova. Kodwa ke nangona kunjalo, amazwe asebumelwaneni Mali kunye neBurkina Faso nawo alawula ngemikhosi aza kukhusela iNiger. iNiger ibibonwa njengelona lizwe lizinzileyo entshona Afrika ekulweni namavukela-mbuso.
Owabe engumengameli waseMelika uDonald Trump uthweswe amacala okuzama uguqula umphumela wokhetho lobumengameli kuleli yazwe. Emacaleni akamuva athweswe wona, uTrump ubhekene namacala amane okwakha itulo lokubhozomela umphumela wokhetho ngenhloso yokuvimba ukuba uJoe Biden amenyezelwe njengomengameli waseMelika ngosemthethweni. Ithimba labashushisi lithi wabe esesabalalisa ulwazi abe azikahle kamhlophe ukuthi lungamampunge, waphinde futhi washoshozela nezenzo zodlame okwabe kushaya indiva inqubo yentando yabantu eMelika. Leli ke yihlandla lesine uTrump ethweswa amacala ayamene nobugebengu kulezi inyanga ezine ezedlule. Nakuba phela ephezulu komkhankaso njengamanje wokhetho lwesikhundla sobumengameli ngonyaka ozayo. Ake mbukeli, njengamanje sizothi nje kequ eyitolo kanti hayi ibanyana impela isithelekile enkundleni yayilolonga iyehli yenyuka iyajima ukuze phela kufika isikhathi sokudlala ke isihamba kahle. Nampa siyababona bayacula, hayi ave bethanda ukucula ke intokazi lezi lapha eNingizimu Afrika zipractice ngengoma. Sikwamukele mbukeli ekhaya Jikelele. Sekufike leso sikhathi sokuthi sikwethulele indaba ehamba phambili. Zimnandi indaba njengoba wazi. Siyazi futhi ukuthi uyayifuna lezi indaba uzibheke ngamehlo abovu. Kholosa athini ngama-Twitter trends namhlanje?
Siyafumanisa wena mbukeli pha ekhaya into yokubana echocha phambili ngu-hashtag zamazama. Uyawuqonda ukhumbule kaloku mbukeli into yokubana imeko yapha eRiver ligqebe imaqongo kakhulu kuba kaloku kuye kwarhaneleka into yokubana kukhona abantu abangozamazama abarhanelekayo nabathe ke badutyulwa babulala abahlanu. Kodwa ke ngoku kuyabonakala mbukeli into yokubana imeko noko ithe yathomalala kulandela kaloku uqhankqalazo uqhankqalazo ngokombiwa kwemigodi ngongekho semthethweni nokulwa kozamazama. Uyawuqonda ukhumbule kaloku umbukeli into yokubana phezolo abahlali bapha eRiver Valley baye babamba uqhankqalazo ngelithi ke babemelela amapolisa norhulumente into yokubana bangenelela kwesi simo. Abahlali ke bale ndawo yogobityholo izama impilo mbukeli wam bathi sele ixesha lilide kuqhubeka lo mlo. Ngomvulo ke umphathiswa wena mamtshali uBhekicele uye wabaqinisekisa abahlali ukuba bazayibeka le meko esweni bayichophele ezithendeni. Kodwa ke nabahlali bayatsho into yokubana hey siyakubona Bhekicele kodwa thina sisakhala asonelisekanga ngendlela enenza nayo. Kanti ke nabantu ke wena nokusi bayethe baphefumula pha kumakhasi uX.com.
Akasibona nangiya The Truth Penta uthi yena in the period from March 23 to April 1 1,199 illegal miners amazamazama were arrested, including 100 South Africans, 124 Zimbabweans, 232 Basotho and 79 Mozambicans. Hayibo, uyabona ke makholo ukuthi lento abantu abaningi abayicabangayo ukuthi ena amazamazama abantu baleli Lesotho nje kuphela. Mangabe sibuka lezi ayinamba The Truth Penta singamethemba
usibiza ngo-The Truth.
Yeah. Okusho ukuthi nje lolu daba nje lamazamazama udaba oluthe icithisaka oluyinkinga nje eindaweni eziningi. Asidlulele phambili sibone ukuthi uthini omunye umbukeli mayelana namazamazama. Beast of News, Beast of News uthi former MMC for Public Safety in Johannesburg David Tembe says it would take any army or it would take the army, police, security companies and community members to declare war against Zamazama to get rid of them. Do I agree with him? Okushuthi usho ukuthi amaphoyisa odwa ngeke akwazi kufuneka amaphoyisa kufuneka izinkampani ezimele zama security kufuneka amasosha kufuneka umphakathi ukuze lesi sihlava nalenkinga eyamazamazama ukuthi iqede ishabalala lenya
yilento ibingqinwa kaloku kulamuntu besinaye engalamini esithi into okubana lo ongumhlali ebethethela abahlathi esixelela ngemeko yilento ayitsho into abana bona bafuna amasosha. Usolomzi Thanda ubuntu uyathi into yokubana trucks get banned, soldiers get deployed, people loot malls, military gets deployed. Heavily armed Zamazamas wreak havoc in communities, no military in sight. Zamazamas are a law unto themselves. Who is making the millions, if not billions, from all their operations? Uvela nenye ke ngoku uSolomon into yokubana lento ingaske kanti kukhona ogobityholo abathi kanti kunezinto abazifundethe epokothweni ngenxa yesisimo.
Hayi ziningi inkinga bakwethu esibhekene nazo siyiningizimu Afrika. Hayi ke masiqhubekela phambili khona no #senzomeyiwa trial vele use undaba mlonyeni ke lolo daba lolo namanje udaba oluthinta uqula kwecala okubulawa kwaloyo nozinto bafana neOrlando Pirates uSenzomeyiwa uke wabake sematheni omunye wamaphoyisa abethula ubufakazi ngezinto ezitholakala kuma cellphones ethi uKheli Khumalo waba nokuxhumana nabanye abasolwa. Izolo mbukeli phela bekufakaza kusayitsheni mabasa kholosa abathuleke abantu bayaqhubeka nokuyiqeketha bebeka imbono yabo ke ngalolu daba kazi yozala nkomoni. Ake sibone ama tweets mayelana nalolu daba. Ukheli Khumalo has been removed from the lineup for an upcoming tribute to Women Festival. This decision was made due to ongoing developments in the Senzomeyiwa case. Kusho uMDN News. Ngibonile nale ABC trend ake le.
Wemana khamba nibonile into yokubana jonga mabamsuse kwi lineup kuba besele bhukiwe kakade kulomsitho wamanina babona into bana hey bathe batsho ke bathi bekhuphe kwi page yabo besithi hayi masiyeke umthetho adlala indima yawo. You are sawubuya ngawe mhlambe xa sibona izinto ukuthi noko ngoku zime ngesimo bamkhulu.
Yabona sekuthanda ukuba umqansa kakhulu impela ke ku-UK uma ngabe phela manje lento eqaleni bekusasengcono njalo bebekhuluma kodwa beqhubeka nempilo yakhe ekwazi ukuyiphilisa. Manje masezofika lapho manje usuphuthwa iqathe emlonyeni ingane nezingane umele uzondle yabona sekuzoba inkinga impela.
Kodwa nje khawube nomfanekiso xa izawumenywa kwi-event especially ngokuqhubeka le case abantu mhlambe bazawuthini mhlambe bangamjula ngezinto ngiqinisekile nayo into yokubana ngoku akasakhuselekanga naxa ihamba abantu umbuzo umile into yokubana usenzo uphi.
Isasekhona enye tweet mayelana ngodaba luka #senzomeyiwa nangu misbelieve lapha uthi cross examination is not a joke guys. Now the guy is suddenly not sure anymore. So much of a change from what we heard on Friday. #senzomeyiwa try. Yinto ade ngicabanga nami leyo le show misbelieve. Ukuthi uyakhumbula ngesikhathi uLambetha Steyn ekhipha indaba zokuthi uKelly waxhumana nomsola wesihlanu ikhona ama records aphumile. Yayi wonke umuntu oyesethi la zamkhalela uKelly Khumalo zamkhalela uKelly Khumalo. Hayibo mase kubuyiwa hayi uadvocate Msholo lesethi cross examination kwavele kwashintsha yonke into okukhombisa ngokusobala ukuthi yabona ecaleni njengalezi lisangaya noma ngayiphi icala noma ngayiphi indlela okwethi nje ukuthi sihlale sibone umthetho ke ubamba iqhaza wenza lokho
kuba no Steyn wena mamtshali uColonel Steyn uye wangqina ukuba umtyola wesihlanu ufiso kuhle Ntuli uye wanxibelelana nowayesesinqanda mathe sika Kelly Khumalo
kodwa futhi mayesembuza uadvocate ukuthi unesiqiniseko sokule number le iregistiwe le number andle ufisa kuhle asikho lesi
andithi ukuthi wayibonakali kwale number ba iregistered
so uyabona nje ukuthi kusase kuningi it's a lot
siyabona ukuthi
iyogcina izale enkomoni ihashtag ke yokugcina yethu ithi #SadioMani lobo ke wena kholosa kwezemidlalo udaba ke olundaba mlonyeni umdlali ke waseSenegal uSadioMani lo mdlali phela ke waba undaba mlonyeni ngesikhathi esuka kuLiverpool okungenye amaqembu amakhulu ke kwelamangisi umane wasuka kuLiverpool wabhekisa amabombo eGermany yodlalela elinye lamaqembu amakhulu eGermany iBayern Munich iningeleza zebhola zithi hayi izinto azimhambelanga kahle inkosi yami umane lapha kuBayern manje ke okuxoxwa ngoSadioMani usehambile eGermany waya eSaudi Arabia iAl Nassr umbukeli phela leli qembu lidlalelwa ke uRonaldo aseye kulo manje uSadio omunye koyinkakha ebholeni leinyawo ayi unenhlanhla ke yena at least besane option yabo wasuka kule kwiLiverpool wathi Bayern Munich lapha eGermany ejethi kuzohamba hle ukuthi ema ife yakho naye kwangahamba njengalendlela becabanga ngayo kodwa ke at least yena ukwazi ukushesha aphume usephumile ke uselapha kwileague iAl Nassr le kuleyo league yale le league ke kuthiwa impela baziqhuma manje kuleli yazo uRonaldo phela uRonaldo is the top 2 uMessi noRonaldo bale phezulu ebadlalini abakhona so usobe sewugijima kanye naye ke kushuthi lapha yana abajwayelekile ukuthi hayi musi uyodlala kule league vele usukulungiselela ukuthi career yakho sizophela so usufuna ukuqoqa as much money as you can cause hayi bayabhatala ke ngapha emalini ake sibone ama tweets ukuthi athini ke lapha yana uAfrica Fact Zone uthini ke Makholi uthi SadioMani will earn £661,000 weekly and 34.37 million yearly tax free etnal yabona tata ngisho sangiqamba manga imali ikhiwa ngamabhakede lapha yabutho. He will receive £8.6 million in bonuses based on his number of appearances. This makes him the highest paid African player and one of the world's highest paid players.
Wow.
Imali engaka uthi bakwazi nokuyibala kodwa Makholi laba bantu yikho benama accountant umntakazazi ukuthi unamalini.
Uyiseyithi hayi thatha up uzawubona uba uthini wow.
Usuyatshela accountant ukuthi you are worth izinto onazo zile mali nawe awazi. Iyangena nje iyangena ake sibone ke tweet yesibili Diski Times uthi what SadioMani earns at Al Nassr in rands. Hawu Jehova msana ukusiqulekisa angisafuna ukuyifunda ke mina khona
hayi mina ngangaboni ke ngoku
780 million per year 780 million ngonyaka 65 million per month 15 million per week 2.1 per day
hayi umbonile per second
no per day no ngicela sike sibheke nje ukuthi per day 2.1 million per day Kholos every day uvuka nje uyemsebenzini wena ubuya no 2.1 million
per second sana wena uyazibuza ukuthi wena isecond nesecond
akukubi uJehova bathanda bonke abantu bakhe nami ngelinye
ilanga chuncembeke
isasekhona enye tweet director the instigator uthini ku-instigator Makhola usakwazi ukufunda amehlo ufuna ufaka izibuko sana uSadioMani is the only man allowed to go to Saudi Arabia for money he built he built a £455,000 hospital and £250,000 school in his village eBambali yabona so wakha isikole wakha isibhedlela ngeyimali ezinkulu lapha endaweni yakubo lapha phuma khona he gives 2,000 families £7 each monthly. He provided 4G internet for them. He's building a fuel station and post office. Uyabona ukuthi uNkulunkulu ubusisa isandla esiphayo. Ukuthi usenza izinto eziningi lapha elalini yakubo efukula imndeni ayikhokhela inyanga nenyanga. uNkulunkulu nje uyambusisa njengamanje ukuze naqhubeke abe yisibusise ebantwini bakubo. Nangiya Yambona usephethe ijezi lakhona ke laphayana Sadio Mane awucha siyambongela ke uSadio Mane mbukeli ke sicela ukugcizelela phela ukuthi ke lembono akuyona eye SABC noma izisebenzi zayo kodwa ke ngiyababukeli iSABC kanye nezisebenzi zayo ngeke babuzwa umbuzo noma bebekwe ecala ngokuphawula obekutholakala kulama tweets esiqeda kwafunda njengamanje ngembukela siqunga seyitolo sizobuya emva kwekhefu. Siphinde sikwamukele mbukeli ekhaya Jikelele. Isikhungo iUNESCO esingaphansi kwenhlangano yezizwe iUnited Nations sasihlongoze ukumisa ukusetshenziswa komakhalekhukhwini ababizwa ngama-smartphones ezikoleni ngelithi lokhu kunomthelela ongemuhle ezinganeni kanti kuzenza zingawunaki umsebenzi wesikole. iUNESCO ke ithi lama-smartphones kwezinye izikhathi asuke equkethe izinto ezingadunga umqondo wengane ngakho ke awakufanele nhlobo ukuba semagcekeni esikole. Ukuxoxa kabanzi mbukeli ngalokhu soxoxa noDokotela uJames Kivi oyisikhulu esiphezulu esikhungweni iJet Education Services okuyisikhungo esibhekela ukwenza ucwaningo ngezinto ezimqoka ezelekelela abafundi nothisha ukuze phela bakwazi ukukhiqiza imiphumela egcolisayo lapha eNingizimu Afrika. Umbukela sisho ke ukuthi nakuba uhlelo lethu lisakaza ngolimi lesinguni kodwa ke lengxoxo elandelayo izokwenziwa ngesingisi ngoba lo muntu esixoxa naye ngumlungu omhlophe qwa akalwazi olwengabade. Dr. Kiv, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're most welcome.
As Jet Education Services, how are you viewing the proposal by UNESCO that smartphones should be banned at schools worldwide?
I think we've got to be careful. UNESCO, the report that was released last week, does talk about the negative impact of smartphones, but it doesn't call for a global ban on the smartphones. I get a sense that the media, in particular some of the articles, are sensationalizing it. So I would want to be a little bit more careful. It's a little bit more nuanced than just banning cell phones.
So do you concur that smartphones are bad for students' mental health, educational performance, and it holds privacy concerns for data leaks for other non-educational purposes?
I'm not getting your sound quality is very bad on my side, but I'll try and respond in terms of the parts that I heard. What we see in schools is, very disadvantaged schools, very rural schools can benefit from devices, but we need to be careful. I think it's not only mobile phones. We found in our work as Jet, and we're an NGO working in many schools in South Africa, mostly disadvantaged schools, that a device can make a big difference to children that might not have the right teachers or the teachers might not be trained appropriately. And their devices can play an important role. We normally use tablets rather than cell phones because the tablets can be managed better in terms of content. So I hope that's a bit of a response, but I'm happy to follow up with your next question.
Yes, Dr. Kivi, is it scientifically proven that there's a negative link between uncontrolled use of mobile phones and student performance?
Yes, so the UNESCO report shows very clearly uncontrolled use can have a negative impact on student performance. So the report talks about the two sets of data, 1 in 4 or 1 in 7 countries across the world are considering restricting the use of cell phones in schools. I would definitely support some restrictions on the use of cell phones. While there are some positive impact, there's a lot of negative. There's bullying that can happen, there's distraction. We see in particular learners with lower ability are impacted very negatively by the uncontrolled use of cell phones. So my response would be, it's perhaps not a ban, but controlled use is really a good thing in schools.
Like, for example, Dr. Kivi, there are schools where they say they need to use cell phones as part of the learning and stuff. How, as a parent, if I don't agree with that, which leg? Do I have a leg to stand on to say, no, I don't want my child to use a cell phone at school. If you guys need to use the technology, rather use the tablets. And with the amount of money that in some schools that is being paid, they should be providing these tablets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As a parent, you have the full right not to expect your child's cell phone to be used in a school setting. I think that's quite a fair point. Many of our kids, of course, have devices, particularly in urban areas, rural less so. The issue here is it's perhaps not so much about using the child's personal device. It's the issue at the moment in the report is more about the use and the positive and the negative impact of the use. But parents definitely have this right to engage schools and not to make the personal cell phones available. That's a right that any parent or child has.
So UNESCO also says that we need to teach our children to live both with and without technology, to take what they need from the abundance of information, but also to ignore what is not necessary. Dr. Kivi, practically, is that possible, especially with children?
I'm not hearing your question. I'm sorry, the sound is really bad.
I was saying,
just maybe.
Yes, UNESCO says we need to teach our children to be able to differentiate from good and bad information. They shouldn't be restricted. At least they should be given this freedom of using the cell phones, but only to be taught that you have to take and use the information to advantage and leave out what is not necessarily. So, in essence, to balance. But I'm just thinking, especially with teenagers, is that practical?
Yeah, no, I think in our schools that's not practical, definitely not. Maybe in a first world country, in a highly kind of developed environment, that would be easier. In our case, I think we cannot leave this only to the learners, particularly younger learners. Perhaps older, there's merit in talking about this, and high school learners, maybe grade 10, 11, 12. But for younger children, a controlled environment is definitely a better option. I don't think we can leave it to them. This is why in our work, when we use a tablet or even some other device, we put controls in place that the learners can only access certain content. So when they work with the teacher or the instructor in the schools, even though they use the device, the content is controlled. So that it's not simply just a kind of a web interface where they can Google anything that they can. And this way you can manage it much better.
Because also UNESCO says that the study found that it can take students up to 20 minutes to refocus on what they were learning once they are distracted. How accurate is this study?
Look, there are a couple of studies around. How accurate it is, I'm not sure. What I do know is UNESCO uses credible research. And so I think the issue is not perhaps how long it takes to refocus. The issue is it can be highly disruptive. It can be highly disruptive, particularly for your learners that are not as strong. That kind of learner is very, very much kind of distracted by the cell phone in an uncontrolled environment, particularly for younger kids.
So there are those that say that banning smartphones for kids can have several benefits. Can you maybe, Dr. Kiv, just take us through some of those benefits?
Okay, well, firstly, I think one of the key things is the teacher is the most important. And so whether a device is only a means to an end, a device cannot replace a teacher. And so not having a cell phone or having a cell phone in a controlled environment means the focus remains on the teacher. Now, in a country like South Africa, we've got variation around teachers. We've got many, many good teachers, but we also have teachers that are not well trained. So I would argue that controlled use of cell phones, and I'm not arguing for ban, but controlled use of cell phones allows the teacher to take ownership of what happens in the classroom. And that disruption and the negative stuff we just spoken about, can be controlled in a better way. But a good teacher would be able to use those devices at the right time and the right way, and in a controlled way that the kids can be benefited.
Yes, I agree with you there. I mean, if the children are in class, the teacher says, go to the site and open and do research on this certain topic that we're talking about. Everybody should be on their cell phones doing that. But the minute that they're done, they should then put their cell phones down. Because another alarming thing that I observed was the use of social media, especially in schools. You found a lot of, on social media, for example, I saw a lot of videos of like recently, there's been a video that was circulating of two girls that were fighting, and actually one girl ended up dying in a school, and it was on a cell phone. So yeah, these smartphones, there's negative and there's positives.
Yeah, there is. And I mean, we must be careful, what one can do is you can become so reactive and say, let's just ban all cell phones and cell phones are bad. And there are many examples like the one you just mentioned. But the reality is where the world is going, the world is becoming more technological. So we must be careful about how we apply these rules. So that's why I would say regulate and manage cell phone usage, but don't ban it. Particular with more older kids, I think it can be managed better. For younger kids, perhaps they need less access. But let's be careful not to have this knee-jerk reaction where, because there are negative impact like cyberbullying and other things now, we just take the cell phones out of the schools completely. I think that's not a good decision.
Thank you so much, Dr. Key, for your time and wishing you a bright day today.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mbukelikelo besixoxa naye udokotela uJames Kivi wesikhungo iJet Education Services. Ubesixoxela kabanzi ke ngendaba ezithinta ukusetshenziswa kwama-cellphone ezikoleni. Uthi ke mbukeli bukhona ububi kanye nobuhle balezi zinto. Esephetha ke uthe hayi zikhona izinto ezinhle ezingenziwa omakhalekhukhwini ezikoleni uma nje othisha bekwazile phela ukulawula indlela othisha balawula ngayo ukusebenza komakhalekhukhwini. Ngiyahumusha ke nje abekusho ngoba phela ubekhuluma isingisi mbukeli. Okunye akushilo laphayana yikho okokuthi abazali nathi njengabazali sinalo ilungelo lokukhuluma nezikole uma ngabe singathandi ukuthi izingane zethu zisebenzise ama-cellphone ukuthi asikwazi isikole phela ukuphoqa ukuthi cha inqubo yesikole ukuthi ingane kufanele ize ne-cellphone esikoleni ukuze izoyisebenzisela ukufunda. Kufanele bona njengesikole baqhamuke neindlela even ukusebenzisa izinto ezifana nama-tablet ongathiwa asala esikoleni kungaba ngeminye ke yezisombululo zalolu daba. Njengamanje ke mbukeli siyayibuza singabe lithini lwakhuluva ungakhohlwa phela ukuthi uyakwazi ukuxhumana nathi ey'nkundleni zokuxhumana usitshele ukuthi wena ucabangani ngalezi indaba nje esikhuluma ngazo lapha ohlelweni lethu okwamanje asithi quke ngaseyitolo sobe emva komzuzwana. Ikamva lebanyana kwitumente yendebe yehlabathi lisezandleni zayo kodwa eliqela lesizwe lizenzele ngokwalo umthwalo. Ibanyana incwase ukuzibeka kwindawo kumjikelo wamaqela ayi-16 kwitumente eWellington eNew Zealand. Ukuze lidlulele kwesisigaba okokuqala ezimbalini iqela likaDesiree Ellis kuzawunyanzeleka libethe iItaly kuqala. Kunjalo zange laphumelela kumdlalo wendebe yehlabathi. Ukanti ngoku nje sibala imizuzu nje ukuba uqale umdlalo kuba sababona mbukeli besebaleni.
Zange kwabalula nakweliphina iqela kwitumente yendebe yehlabathi kodwa ke noko kubonakala ngathi intshatsheli zase-Afrika zizenzele intaba ezakufuneka ziqabele ngomzuzu wokugqibela ukuze zidlulele kumjikelo olandelayo. Kodwa umqeqeshi uDesiree Ellis ubethelela kubadlali ukuba lo mdlalo wangomso ne-Italy bawuthathe njengefayinali.
This is definitely the final. We can't think of anything beyond this. We've got to make sure we leave everything on the pitch. Not that we didn't leave everything on the pitch in the other games, but this is one where there's no margin for error. This is one where we got to be very organized in all areas. This is one where we got to make sure that we're defensively sound. We've got to make sure that we keep a clean sheet.
Ibanyana iqephe uduma kuqala kuyo yomibini imidlalo eseyidlalile kuqala neSweden kwalandela iArgentina. Umdlali wasesiswini Kholosa Piana uthi kungakona bazikhande ngenyeketyeni ngongayiphumeleli lemidlalo kodwa kunjalo uthi akulahlwa mbeleko ngakufelwa.
We scored early in both games. We were leading in both games and we conceded very late in the game. I think for us that's one thing that we have been working on, and we must make sure that we don't concede, especially after scoring. We must try and contain the teams and be able to manage time.
Umdlalo uqala ngentseni ngensimbi ye-9 ngomsolo usayo. Iqela lifuna ukusebenza kwalonzima kungemkini amanzi. Kanti isizwe ngokubanzi sinqanelwe ukubona ibanyana idlulela kwisigaba esilandelayo kwitumente.
Bukelizi yabuya phela kwezemidlalo. Iqembu lakuleli lebhola lomnqakiswano livivela umdlalo walo omqoka lapho lizobhekana khona neNew Zealand engompetha bomqhudelwano wendebe yomhlaba ebholeni ke lomnqakiswano. Njengoba iProteas ingenaso nje isiqiniseko sokuthi izodlulela yini esigabeni esandulelwe amanqamu, yazi kahle kamhlophe kodwa ukuthi cha na kanjani kufanele ukuthi inqobe namhlanje kusihlwa.
Kulandela impumelelo ngakwi-Trinidad and Tobago phezolo iProteas asivantambo sisibisela kangangoko ukuzibonakalisa ukuba asiyontsimbeko bayo. Amaqobokazana asekhaya azakulwa kube mdyakisane ukuba kufuneke ingombili iNew Zealand nengevantambo kuza kuthi gangoku. Kwinkxaso engagungqiyo eziyifumana iProteas kubalandeli zithi kufayayo.
I see every team as another opportunity to prove what I can do on the court, and before stepping on the court I just know that that's another goal defense. I don't look at the name, I don't look at the team, I don't focus on what they are, but I focus on our team and our strengths, and I stand by myself and with the team around me, my wing attack, my goal shooter, and we try to bring out the strength in each other to beat what they have.
Nakubeni abaqeqeshi benethemba elinoyolo kodwa baya kulo mdlalo bechule ukunyathela. Banethemba lokuba umdlalo phakathi kweJamaica neNew Zealand ngolwesihlanu unganeziphumo eziluncuthumazangwa kuMzantsi Afrika.
New Zealand is going to be a tough opponent, but anything is possible. I mean, Uganda put it right to them when they played them the other day, only going down by 10 goals. So I don't really think that the New Zealand game is a make or break. We do have Uganda after that on Thursday.
Nakubeni abemi beli bewujonge ngabomvu umdlalo wangomso ayizokunqa inkxaso ngakwiProteas besa kuzityontyela ukuba zibuye nempumelelo. iProteas ziyaqonda ukubaluleka komdlalo wangomso kwaye sizimisele kangangoko.
Iqela elinkqenkqeza lehlabathi eAustralia iphulela amasaka iQueens of Malawi ngo-70-46 ithabatha unyawo olusendeleyo kumdlalo owandulela amagqibela kankqoyi wendebe yehlabathi yebhola yomnyazi ka-2023 eKapa lodumo. Kusenjalo iBajan Gems yaseBarbados ibethe iSingapore ngo-55-50.
They're making plans because they know they will be going into that half-time break shortly.
Oh, gee, the vision from Kumwenda. Well, that is just precision passing. And look at Mvula. She's... So Australia staring down the barrel of their first quarter loss at this World Cup to the hands of Malawi, world number 6. Margin, or 20-goal target, margin a little bigger. And Kira Austin will slot in the final goal of the game. And
so underway here, Barbados in the blue and yellow trim and Singapore in the red. And that's a fast start for Barbados.
Contact goal defense.
Just look at that movement, Jenny. If it's not there, you can expect someone to come for the ball. That's what is most impressive for me.
A big step from Blackman. It's good. That's just her third attempt. 2 from 3 for Latonia. So another turnover this time. Not enough time, but that's a good quarter for Barbados because they have come back.
Madoda sofikile lo mzuzu ke makholi manje akusekho kubiyela emuva usuyaqala umdlalo phakathi kwebanyana banyana kanjalo ke neItaly. Kade ke seqedwe kade icula iculo le South Africa. Uzwile?
Oh.
And united
we yo andayilosa.
Nali ke iqembu lase-Italy ibo laba bazobe bebhekene noRhatlane bebhekene kuthiwa inhlamvu zamehlo impela. Akusekho ukubiyela emva manje babukeli sonke nje siyiningizimu Afrika Nkosi yami siyafisa ukuthi lezi zintokazi engathi ngaphumelela namhlanje. Sekuculwa i-national anthem ye-Italy ke njengamanje.
Amahlathi aphelile kodwa maqiyazana nize isifuba sithi ga nithi xa ningena apha ebaleni niqiniseke nazi into okubana singumzantsi Afrika sinijongile kwaye sininqwenelela konke obuhle siyasayenza lento ngaphambili sisenokuyenza nanamhlanje.
Akukho okunye ke impela njengoba sesishilo mbukeli sekuyikho nje ukuthi ibanyana banyana bakithi ingene egroundini nathi njengoba sesivalelisa manje mbukeli sesiyavalisa ngoba sesijaha ukuyobuka igame
sesiyibukela mbukeli
siphathele zona namhlanje siyabonga kakhulu ngokusihlanganyele kanye nathi kanti siyabuya ke futhi kusasa ngesikhathi esifanayo nibe nosuku olumnandi nisale kahle.
High five.